Hello, today I want to talk to you about who owns your propane tank. What's this all about? It's pretty crazy. And if you've watched my other propane videos, or even if you haven't, propane is complex. It makes no sense. You really need it to be explained to you. So don't feel overwhelmed or bewildered about this crazy world of propane you have stepped into. We're going to clear some things up. So a big question is, who owns this propane tank? Most of the time people assume they own their propane tanks, and most of the time people do not own their propane tanks. Of course people would think they own it. The tanks are at their house, they're on their property. Sometimes they're buried in their ground. They have an underground tank and it's actually buried there. It came with the house, or there's no sticker on the propane tank. But just because of all these scenarios does not mean that you own your propane tank. Now, a grill cylinder tank, yes, you own it. But a larger tank that you're using for maybe cooking or water heating or home heat, probably 8 times out of 10, the company owns the tank. So why do some people own their tanks and other people use the company's tanks? And what's this whole situation anyways? Why aren't you even offered to purchase your tank? I mean, when people use fuel oil or kerosene, they buy their tanks. It's their tanks. Well, it all boils down to 2 things, basically. One is the cost of the product. When you don't own the tank, you can't do with it what you want. That means you must purchase from the company who owns the tank. And therefore, they have a little more power. They have a little more control with their pricing. The other reason being that these tanks are more pricey than what you would pay for a kerosene tank or a fuel oil tank. Not that those are not pricey, but this type of tank is a tank that has a pressurized substance in it. There is a lot more going on inside these tanks. So the initial investment is a good bit more. So if you're looking at 2 100-gallon tanks like this, a tank probably at least $700 a piece. In addition, you would have to pay for your regulator and your pigtail and all those other things, which this one is not connected, but this tank over here has those things. So, you know, a lot of people, this is a 1,000-gallon tank. This tank is considerably more. You're looking at probably about $3,000 to own one of these tanks. So now you'll notice my tanks do not have stickers on them. A lot of times customer-owned tanks, which is what we call tanks that are owned by the customer or owned personally by the homeowner or the business owner. A lot of times they don't have stickers, but that isn't necessarily a 100%, you know, go to, I own my tank, there's no sticker on it. A lot of times propane companies switch ownership, that there might be a sticker on the tank that the company is obsolete. The new company hasn't put a sticker on it. Might be that the person who installed it was lazy and never put the sticker on like they were supposed to. I mean, that's free advertising for them. That's why they put that on there. Sometimes they'll put their phone number. Another reason, I mean, your tank could have a sticker on it of a propane company just because you bought it from them and they installed it. And so they slapped it on there. And companies also use stickers to deter other companies. If you own the tank, they will slap a sticker on it if they get a chance, if they can get away with it, because sometimes other companies think that that tank belongs to a certain company, and so they won't pursue that customer to try to fill their propane tank. There's a huge sales industry involved with it all, but anyways, a sticker means nothing. If it's buried in the ground, it means nothing. Now, I am a strong believer that nothing should be buried in your ground that does not belong to you. And some jurisdictions have that rule. Some propane companies have that personal rule because they get burned a lot when they bury their property, a tank, in someone's ground. They get burned when homes change ownership and they can't, the new homeowner doesn't want to use that company. Well, they've got their tank buried in the ground. It costs a lot of money to excavate that up. Costs a lot of money to maintain that. It's a lot of, it's a tank there that they can't get any revenue on. Also, someone can stop using propane at any time and, their tank is still in the ground. So I'm very against companies burying their own tanks for so many reasons. But just because it's buried in the ground does not mean you own it either. Not 100%, okay? Just because you bought your house and the realtor says the propane tanks are included, they own the propane tanks. Don't believe that. Please don't just take the realtor's word. You need to see proof of that, because there have been countless people that I have worked with that have been burnt in that situation. They thought they were getting propane tanks included with the sale of their house. When you're talking about a 1,000-gallon tank, that's a $3,000 loss, plus more maybe, So even if the tanks were there when you moved in, that doesn't mean they're yours, okay? The fact that they're sitting at your house and they've been sitting there for 5 years and you haven't heard from anybody doesn't mean they're yours. There's only one thing that guarantees that tanks at your house are yours, and that is the original bill of sale. The original bill of sale will have the special number, unique serial number on it, and that is your proof that this tank belongs to you. That is the only true thing. Now, if you're purchasing a house and the previous owner says that they own it, then you need that original bill of sale to be in your possession, or you need a some sort of legal document from them. Just their word, just their signature on a paper, it does not work. It does not count. Now, how can a propane company, aside from just saying that's my propane tank, how can they prove it? They should have a signed lease agreement. If they don't have a signed lease agreement with you, then they should have it with the previous homeowner. And again, there should be serial numbers. And those serial numbers should match the tank at your house or the tanks in question. If they don't, it's not the same tank. Okay? So you have to be aware of what's going on. You need to, ask to see those documents. I mean, that's your right. Don't just take the company's word that the tanks belong to them. And ask the question, who owns these tanks? You need to, step up and find that out for yourself, because that affects your price. And it can affect your price considerably. So knowing who owns the tank is very important. I'm going to be doing another video that talks about propane pricing and understanding all of that. I have done a video on how to read your propane tank, and I have done a video on what size tank is it. So check out those videos if you're new to propane. There's a lot of good information in there.